Welcome to the New York Now podcast, a modern wholesale market for retailers and specialty buyers seeking diversity and discovery. Gathering twice a year in America's design capital, New York City, it's where buyers and designers unearth a refreshed and dedicated collection of eclectic lifestyle products. This episode has been brought to you in collaboration with the World Fairtrade Organization. Our grassroots history is best stated by the World Fairtrade Organization. Fairtrade inspires millions and proves a better world is possible. We are a global community of businesses that exist to put people and planet first. We are campaigners and activists fighting for change. Our movement is farming, weaving, marching, lobbying, teaching, and trading to take our vision forward. The WFTO was born in 1989, but the pioneers who founded us go as far back as the 1940s. Today, their vision and value transcends the WFTO community and the broader fair trade and social enterprise movements. Joellen Nicholson. Joellen's background in building shared value partnerships across sectors for inclusive value chains. She has led marketing programs, partnerships, plus sustainability and social impact initiatives with leading brands like The Gap, Disney, and Macy's. In addition, her work has supported business growth and social compliance for over 100 global SMEs, with on-the-ground projects in India, Guatemala, Haiti, and Namibia. Joellen co-founded Basik 855, a social venture that developed a new co-creation model with Cambodian artisans. As an advisor for startups and NGOs, Joellen consults on business model and program strategies that incorporate social impact and sustainability. Currently, Joellen is a VP at University Impact, growing the unique triple donor advised fund model through impact investments and creating the next generation of social impact leaders. We are delighted to have her joining us today with our very special guest, Roopa Mehta, the president of the World Fair Trade Organization.
Thank you, Dondril, for bringing us together for this important conversation about fair trade, artisans, and creating an innovative design inclusive economy. I'm so thrilled to be here with World Fair Trade Organization President Roopa Mehta. She's a fair trade social enterprise pioneer I've admired and have had the opportunity to work with. In addition to her role as the WFTO president, she's the CEO of Ashoka in India with a network of 100 groups of women and marginalized artisans and producers. Roopa is here today to share more about WFTO and her insights from leading one of the original fair trade organizations in India. And welcome to Roopa, who joins us actually from on-site in Calcutta, India today. Hi, Roopa.
Hi, Joellen, and you're in my favorite city in the world, New York. I'm delighted to be here and to have this conversation. We can relive our moments in Calcutta.
Yes. And I will say I've been at Sasha Crafts and visited Roopa and the team there in Calcutta. So we'll relive here today. So let's get started. We have some time together today. So first I want to begin with, let's just talk about WFTO overall. So can you just share some details about the World Fair Trade Organizations, their mission and the principles?
Okay, now WFTO mission at its core is to advocate and promote fair trade, its values, its principle, and the membership of guaranteed fair trade social enterprises. Members who place people and planet before profit, members who work with the most marginalized artisans, craftspeople, textile workers, and farmers. WFTO sees its role as facilitating market access and also creating opportunities for capacity building and helping members by generating awareness of fair trade practices so that, the voice of fair trade is amplified and its extent, its reach and influence. And if you see, WFTO's messaging highlights the social, economic, and environmental impact of fair trade practices of its members. Coming to the principles, Joellen, the principles include creating opportunities for the most marginalized, ensuring fair price, fair and living wages, transparency and accountability is very important, gender equity, no child labor, and where there's no discrimination. Again, it respects traditional and indigenous knowledge and skills. And with all fair trade organizations who are members, there has to be freedom of association. And very, very importantly, respect for the environment. And these principles are really internalized in our members' business practices. They live these principles.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think these just kind of like the mission, and when you think about the principles, I think they're so important, especially when you think about who the workers are. They're coming from an informal economy and kind of being more formalized, and this is dignified. This is what we all expect through work. And so it's so important. And then especially as you get into market access, and, as the name implies, I think when I think about kind of fair trade and then WFTO, but as the name implies, that's what you're all about. And so
that's the core.
That's your core. And so the main activity of all what you have, I think about 400 members, which is incredible, within the WFTO, and you're doing global marketing and trade activities, which impacts over 950,000 livelihoods of artisans, workers, and farmers. Enabling this market access is so vital to the continued growth for your member organizations.
Absolutely.
And the livelihoods for these workers. And
indeed.
One of the thoughts that I have in thinking about this is, since you're kind of this is a member-led organization, and you come in as a president at the same time, while still serving as the president of Sasha Crafts. I'm sure this gives you kind of a direct understanding of the opportunities and challenges of a fair trade social enterprise. So I'm just wondering, and curious about how does this influence kind of how you lead the WFTO?
I think it's so important, the experience which one has carried of running a fair trade organization now for nearly 4 decades. What it does, it gives you a very direct and deeper understanding of the challenges which our members face, about their successes, and what are the kind of expectations they have from WFTO. What are the services which are required by the members, and also in their particular socio-economic context. And, to take this further, Joellen, the board is elected from the membership. And the board members themselves bring their understanding and experience to WFTO as well. So what does this do? This makes us responsive and sensitive to the needs of our members. And this is, really demonstrated particularly in times like the current one, which we all are going through. And one brought on by the pandemic. And it's at this time that, how WFTO responds to the needs of its members, that is demonstrated in its totality. And that is what the board and me as a president, in our understanding, in the direction that we want our organization to take, of course, it definitely informs it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just like the voice of everyone. That's
exactly.
The collective voice and that understanding. And I think, when I think of this, it's like your perspective as what I'm going to call like a practicing president. You don't always get that. Is so valuable as you have that kind of that direct connection to what social enterprises the members are facing in their day-to-day operations. You live and breathe that at Sasha, and you understand the market access opportunities and, of course, challenges that come in trade. So I think that's so important, especially in a global marketplace, which, through my experience, we know I've worked in this space as well. I had my own artisan business, and I've worked with Sasha and, hundreds of artisan businesses around the world, that there's opportunities there, but it's a global world. And so that makes it's competitive, of course, that's what it is. But I think with that and knowing that, and then what WFTO is doing for the members, I'm curious and how you taking on kind of your perspective, and then what WFTO is doing to kind of listen to the voice of the members, how do you drive that global awareness of what fair trade is and the importance of it as far as its mission and its principles? And then how do you help facilitate, you said that at the beginning, you help facilitate that market access for its members?
Yes, indeed. Now, WFTO has a strategy which includes campaigning as also networking with other social initiatives, like we have the World Social Forum or the Social Enterprise World Forum to raise the profile of fair trade. Again, it works with the Fair Trade Advocacy Office in Brussels and supports the International Fair Trade Towns movement. Through all this association, WFTO is in a position to raise not only the profile, but to amplify the voice of fair trade, to project the values and principles through many channels. And that has definitely creates far more global awareness of fair trade and also the membership, which is the fair trade enterprises with their businesses, etc., and the fair trade products, right, the markets where they are operating, their production processes, and the whole story of not only fair trade but of the members. Again, WFTO has a regular presence in two very, very important trade shows. That's Ambiente in Frankfurt and, of course, New York now.
Yeah.
So, and over the years, there's been such a great relationship between WFTO and the organizers that they actually work to promote WFTO at the trade shows, the organizers, that is, and the WFTO members who are participating. So this has been a big support from the two big trade shows. And going forward, we've even giving space for holding press meets. So, that's all the additional promotion that happens at the trade shows.
Yeah.
So that has, I think, benefited a number of our members and also generated the kind of awareness which you've been talking about, and where, buyers and consumers, they learn about fair trade. Here is an opportunity to learn about fair trade and also to see the wonderful products and then to make collaborations. So that, and at WFTO itself, we have a very strong social media presence. And on our website, there is a facility for potential buyers to do a product search and then get in touch with organizations with whom they could possibly build a relationship going forward. And for our members, there is a link through which you can connect to web shops. So, initiatives of this kind have definitely created opportunities for the members to reach new markets. So that has been a very positive effort, and I think we'll continue to move in this direction over the coming years.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important, and I like where you touch upon. I think it's wonderful that the shows, and I think it's extremely important that shows like the New York Now and even organizers like the Ambiente, but that they're giving presence and a stage to the WFTO and the members to present their products and their principles and what they're doing and the importance and the beauty and the craftsmanship of their work. It's so important, and to see what they're doing and that they have that, because it's so important to understand that. And then that you have that social media presence, right? Before you had that, it was a lot harder to get out. How wonderful with the onset of social media, now the range that you can reach, because now you can reach consumers, a broader range, a global audience of consumers. But it brings me to still think, when I think of fair trade and global awareness, that maybe missing from the narrative still is what the artisan and workers, who are predominantly women, as we know, have contributed to our ways of working and the mindset. So we see them. I think, people are doing that, but I think it's kind of like the behind the scenes, like we see the finished product, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious, but there's so much more to it. And I think
absolutely,
we're so fortunate to kind of like we get to be in there, and especially you're there day to day. And I have always relished when I had my own business working with textiles, but when I've been all over the world getting to kind of work with artisans, I relish that because it's incredible. And I'm curious, from your perspective as a leader and a pioneer in this field, what do you think remains unknown about kind of fair trade artisans?
I think what remains unknown, or at least not known enough, is the traditional skills of the artisans, the techniques and processes, and the cultural context of traditional crafts and textiles. The stories of its origin and its evolution. To know that handmade uses simple tools and techniques, and its carbon footprint is minimal. Fair trade artisans, and if you know them as you do, Joellen, they use natural materials. Almost always they'll use natural materials and safe or natural dyes. And over the past few years, we've seen that they are increasingly searching for technological and innovative solutions for things like wastewater management, or what methodology or what tools or equipment they can acquire for saving energy. Again, I'm sure you've noticed this, Joellen, being so close to this territory, is that these enterprises are in the forefront of repurposing waste, recycling, upcycling, and making use of every little spare material.
Yeah, that's their life. Yes.
Don't chuck it into trash.
No.
I mean, you've seen this happening more and more now.
Yeah.
And another thing maybe people miss, Joellen, if I may continue.
Yeah, of course.
Is that artisans regularly work with international and domestic designers. Mm-hmm. They create they create products which are best suited to the market. Mm-hmm. I don't think people realize that they follow seasonal trends and styles and are very open to collaborate with buyers on innovative product and design development. And I must tell you that, in fact, our artisans will often tell you that please, 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 we don't want to repeat this design. For the next season, we are bored.
Right. It's just like everyone. Everyone wants to be challenged. Exactly. Try something new.
Exactly. And this is creative manufacturing. This is creative manufacturing, not like the mechanized large scale production which just goes on and on and on. So this
you give them the opportunity to say this is the problem or what we're trying to solve for, and they will look to come up with a solution or a design. Yeah,
absolutely. And I used to be amazed that how an international designer collaborating with a master craftsperson, they don't speak the same language, but between the two of them, they'll create something so beautiful.
Yeah, you're just it's the language of the visual language and just kind of communicating through kind of pointing and action. Yeah, it can be done.
Absolutely.
Well, I remember, with the artisans I worked with in Cambodia, they would use inspired direction and just kind of take that and come up with new ECAT designs. And they were so excited, and they would use their natural surroundings or their everyday. I remember they looked at the bottom of a hand woven basket out of their natural kind of palm material, and that became, looking down, the new pattern for one of our new textile designs. Incredible.
It's amazing. I have so many stories. I have so many stories. We don't have time.
We don't have time. I wish we did, because it gets me going. I hope people can hear the excitement in our voices, because it is so exciting.
It is true. It is.
Yeah. But I think then this kind of brings me to, this excitement of the innovation, all that kind of working with artisans. And, I think the social enterprises that are working with artisans and craftspeople know this, right? And now
absolutely.
They operate under the fair trade principles, because many do. And so it's like, then what is the detail to become a WFTO member? So maybe if you could just share a little bit more about that. And I think what I really liked about it is it's kind of really comprehensive and collective. I know I'm a firm believer in that, and to do anything today, we all need to kind of work together. And I think that's the principle of WFTO. And, this approach to kind of create this inclusive economic growth. So yeah, could you just share a little bit more about the fair trade process and the implementation for anyone that, out there that might be listening that might be interested?
Yeah. So would you like to know a little bit about the guarantee system?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, we have values and principles, and we talk about these values and principles being embedded in our members' everyday production and business practices. But then how do you know? How do you know that they are adhered to against the standards which WFTO has set itself?
Yeah.
So now the guarantee system, in fact, was an ask from the membership, because they felt that they needed to give the buyers, they needed to give the world outside the reassurance that we truly practice fair trade. Because there are so many people who lay claim to it, so many businesses that lay claim to this.
It's so important.
Fair trade. I mean, it's thrown all over the place.
Yeah.
But to assure this status, the guarantee system was evolved, and it was developed through a collaborative process. It engaged members as well as experts. And even today, Joellen, it continues to evolve, adding more depth in their existing standards. And of course, as I said, all these principles are deeply embedded in the production supply chain and business practices of the members. That's what it's for. So unlike some other certification, the WFTO label guarantees the organization and not a product. I think this is a very important difference, and therefore requires a very strict adherence to the principle and standards through all the processes, which, as I said, production and business processes. And also in their relationships that, whether it's with the producer, whether it's with the buyer, whether it's with the consumer, that transparency and all the principles, they really are respected through the entire chain. And there is it's a multi-layered process. Auditing is done at every layer. So it is very strong in that, very effective. And what is important, again, what is difference here is that while some standards are mandatory, for the others, the members can be in a process of continuous improvement, which kind of allows people, and sometimes organizations are small and very rigid standards of black and white. And in an artisanal situation, how hard it is to maintain that. So the fair trade process, it is about that. Yeah. First of all, if you become a fair trade member, if you say want to apply for a WFTO membership, the first stop is that it's mission-led. Yeah. And then if the mandatory standards are met, then the potential member will get a provisional membership, and through which WFTO will handhold the organization to see that they become ready for an audit, and then they can become full member. I mean, then they get their full membership.
Yeah. Oh, I think
and then there is an audit.
I think that handheld is nice too, because sometimes these types of, becoming a member to some of these, whether it be fair trade or other types of systems out there can, at its surface can be daunting, right? Especially if you're a smaller organization, but I don't think it needs to be. And especially if, you have, someone there to kind of help you along and coach you, and just know that it doesn't happen overnight, of course.
Yes.
But you can get through it, and that's possible.
Exactly.
It might take time, but you can do it, and you do what you can within your day-to-day operations, doing that and kind of continuing along with it along the timeline. So that's great to know.
Yeah, and finally, the system is now recognized as a low cost, effective, and credible certification system.
Yeah.
And, and I think the difference is really, Joellen, that it was developed, the ask came from members.
Yeah.
An expert and members collaborated.
Yeah.
To develop the system. So it was a process, and I think it's doing well. And the members also take it on themselves to, promote the guaranteed status label.
Yeah.
So in time, we hope it gets more and more visibility.
Yeah. Well,
with visibility, awareness of fair trade will grow, and the market for fair trade products will grow. So that is the real, aspiration, if you like.
Yeah.
And that is what pushes us to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And we all know that iconic WFTO, that the fair trade label that we see on things that helps to validate, right?
Exactly.
The organization. And so I think it'd be interesting to know. So then once you go through that and you get to use that seal on the products that you make as an organization, what else does a member, being a member entail? Besides, of course, like the market access and the things that you do around campaigning. What else? Yeah. What are some of the other things?
No, but I think that is very important, Joellen, the fact that members can participate in the campaigns and they can carry those messages to their communities of customers, producers, and the general public.
Yeah.
Because that message of fair trade and fair trade businesses has to grow.
Yeah.
So more and more people become aware of it. And this then begins to happen in members' local communities. And very often they are also collaborating with local associations. They collaborate with corporates, they say for corporate gifting or for any other kind of support that corporates, businesses can give. And then also with governments to draw support for fair trade and also to draw support for the artisans.
Yeah.
So, this is what is, a part of what members do.
Yeah.
There are certain services and there are certain collaborative initiatives with members do with WFTO, but then also on their own, in their own communities. And they amplify this voice.
I think that's important that collaboration, that collective. But I think when we were talking about global before world, but I think
exactly.
the important is the local in that regional, because I think that's so important in today's world too. Is that what is regional and what are they doing? I said, like you said, working with the local corporations or governments in awareness of their communities or, market access opportunities, selling to these different things. And I think that's so important. And especially when you think about, so as we shift and think about what's happening, just right now with COVID and the importance, it's a global pandemic, but it affects everyone. It's affecting so many people globally. Things are happening locally,
Yes.
And so
it has to. There's a language, there is issues, there is how the messaging has to be done to make that impact. So, it gets localized.
Yeah.
Which is very important. That's how the voice and the message will get amplified in the end. So you've just nailed it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and so then I am wondering, because I think with this with a pandemic, it's taken a toll on so many people. So
exactly.
I want to recognize that, but I think especially the health and the economic livelihoods, especially for artisans and craftspeople, kind of further down the value chain. And I know fair trade enterprises, I'm sure, are scrambling with to support workers and farmers and artisans and everyone that they work with and those communities that everyone's doing. And I'm just wondering, what has the WFTO been able to kind of do to kind of support all the members, and how do you help kind of alleviate some of the stresses that have just been thrown on them?
It is. Yeah, that is. Yeah. I think what WFTO and its regional networks, I think they responded very urgently to the crisis. So one of the things that we did at WFTO was put up a community Facebook page. Because the first needs is for people to come together in a space where they can share stories, where they can share experiences, where where in solidarity,
Yeah.
where they can share, the solutions they have found. And I must say, in this community, there was a lot of mutual support. For instance, Fairtrade buyers, through crowdfunding initiatives and raising money, they did so much. So many of our members,
Yeah.
were able to support the businesses that they were working with. None of them canceled orders.
Great. That's
The
great.
orders may have reduced, but that was amazing. And that was because the network and because stories are being shared. And what was another thing which happened, I think, I don't know whose brainwave it was, but in WFTO regions as well, especially Asia, this facilitated the production of masks and PPE. And this was really early on. And, Joellen, what the impact of that was that not only did it give work and income to the artisans because they made it for the market, but also a proportion of these were for distributing to the community and the units in which they were.
Health and safety.
That was amazing. And then you know about WFTO, that, the initiative about raising profile in our social media and messaging and product search and connecting to web shops. All of that, of course, was happening. But there was an extremely successful campaign. Stay home, live fair. And it was wonderfully conceptualized and said that how, even when you're at home, that, you can continue buying and using and promoting fair trade products. Yeah. So this was, and also in this time was an opportunity because people were at home, they were looking at social media messages. So a lot of the stories were going out about the crafts, about the processes, about the techniques, about organizational stories, about how they were recycling waste, etc., etc. The different aspects of fair trade and of the members. And finally, WFTO continues to share those amazing stories of its members and their resilience, determination, and courage, which is what came out. And that came out because people felt that sense of solidarity.
Yeah, there's definitely
they felt that how much the members were supporting each other in their businesses, but also to give hope and courage. So, and now, of course, they're working on recovery and rebuilding their business. And what the role WFTO has now taken on and certain activities is that as more businesses move online, we are organizing webinars on digital marketing, inviting experts, and providing linkages to new opportunities in this digital space. I think this is a new area even at WFTO. But then you're moving. Like New York Now's digital show. Many of the WFTO members are participating. And it will not only be an experience, not only an opportunity to meet with buyers, but it's also getting familiar and handheld to how you can use this digital space. And I think that's amazing.
Which is so important, I think, too. Well, in the recovery resilience, but it's catapulting them into, I think it's kind of two things. It's catapulting maybe them into a new kind of digital age that maybe they're a little slower to progress into. But then I look at it as two in an area where they've been at the forefront of, where I look at the trend of, I think I've been tracking this for over 10 years now for my personal self of sustainability and social and being driven by fair trade principles. It's been accelerated in the past 7 or so months, even more so. But I think buyers, designers have been on this, they've already been shifting towards knowing that they need to kind of think about social and environmental responsibility in the way that they do business. Consumers have been thinking about it and seeking out companies in the ways that they design and wanting to buy ethically sourced goods. It's important to them. And now it's just, it's all over the place. So now I think when you bring technology, being able to access buyers, in this digital marketplace, but I think for fair trade, it's the foundational, like this environmental, social, the principles of the way of how products are made. It's your foundation. And so I think it's you have this unique product that I think, makes you a great business partner. And I think, I think buyers and designers can be part of creating this, I like to call it creating this inclusive economy, being that, gives, partners with organizations to kind of create or source product that gives opportunity for livelihoods and is fighting poverty, is rooted in environmental justice and, and natural environments and all these things. So I think, as you're looking at as a retailer, buyer or designers, interior designers or whomever that you might work with, and they're looking to find unique products, I really see that the members of WFTO have those kind of products and the range of skills that can kind of meet anyone's desires of what they're trying to look for.
Yeah, exactly.
So how really can how can they, retailers, buyers, designers become partners with the Fairtrade members in sourcing or creating products, from scratch and collaborating and co-creating together?
Joellen, I think Fairtrade is based on partnerships. It is defined by relationships. The relationships between buyers, the intermediary marketing organization, the enterprises, and the producers. And in fact, I think all relationships in the short supply chain. Mm-hmm. So there's very, I would say the business collaboration is based on transparency, mutuality, and trust. So, the producers and artisans, they do understand because that information is shared. They do understand that, they have to work to get the right product. They have to work to get the costing fixed, the right price, and they have to ensure that delivery goes out on time to make it to the marketplace when it's required. And they're very open to sharing their own stories, their challenges, and the beauty of their craft, its history, etc. All that we've talked about earlier, Joellen. They're very open to it. And if the buyer needs to pitch the artisan stories, they collect all the information. If the buyer requires a quality and an innovative product, they know they can work with the artisans. They can send them storyboards or whatever. So this collaboration, I think it's a human one, that you're understanding each other's situation, and woven into it is the business. So, you're always jumping into each other's shoes, if you like.
Yeah.
Like very often I tell my team in the office that just place yourself in XY buyer's shoes. If it's a very small new business, then see what they're going through. Make it comfortable for them because you have the experience. So, I think, and this model and this behavior, if you like, it goes, it's just something that you do in your everyday life. Any buyer that comes in, how you open up doors. And the collaboration is rich. It's really a rich exchange, if you like.
It is.
And in turn, the buyers can present to the consumers the full story.
And I think that gives such an interesting message. What message do you think that sends to the consumer? I think it's endless.
I think it is. But, the conscious consumer today, as you very rightly said, Joellen, and I think this has got accelerated in these times because people are sitting and they're watching the fault lines in the systems. In our economic systems, in our social systems, people can see that. And people, because they don't have access to this kind of information, or they're not really looking for it, they don't find it. But this time, I feel that, the conscious consumer, and this is, as I said, a growing tribe, is mindful of the impact of her purchase. Movements like the fashion revolution and some other such campaigning have made them more and more aware. And she is aware of issues around imbalances in the supply chain. We can't underestimate them. She is aware of lack of transparency about exploitation of workers, gender inequities, discrimination, production practices that negatively impact the environment. I think this is something that people are getting more and more conscious of the environment, and also things which are safe for use.
Yes.
The textile that is safe, the craft that is safe, etc., etc. So they can trust. And I think what is communicated is not only the socioeconomic impact, but that you can trust the product.
Right.
You
Trust
can
is
trust
always key.
You know that you get what you see.
Right.
It's not sort of decorated or covered up with a lot of advertising and fake messaging. It's there, it's authentic, and it is, as I said, honest.
Honest and trust. Yeah, that is, I think that's perfect. Yeah.
And and Joellen, it is a well-designed, trendy, quality product. Earlier, and this I have to tell you, whether we have time or not, when the movement was in the early years and you were trying to market coffee, the story would go that most people, because they were activists and wanted to support Fairtrade, close their nose and drink the coffee.
If you could all see it right now, she's holding her nose.
So, we've come a long way, baby.
Yeah. No, and I think that's because we are running out of time, but I think that's a perfect segue, because I think there is maybe a misnomer that it isn't a product that you want, but I think the product is innovative. It's on trend. It's what people want. It's beautiful. It's things that you'd want to put on your body, what you want to put into your home. I know I'm guilty of it myself, is I have lots of artisan things that are in my home, carefully curated around my different rooms. So I think that's what's beautiful, is that you get to bring a little bit of the world and someone's hand and their craft to your life. And I think that's what's beautiful and wonderful about their trade organizations and the products that they make. What makes them so special. But we are running out of time. I'm sad.
I know.
I could spend hours talking to you. I wish we had some cha with us right now. Yeah, some cha and drinking that. But as we close out, what is next for the WFTO right now?
I think we have to just do more of the same. I think, but also there are new areas for reaching new markets, and how we can support members, build capacity, and create more learning opportunities to sort of negotiate the digital space, and continue doing more and more awareness. I think we are fine-tuning our messaging. Also, WFTO has initiated a crowdfunding. It's still under wraps, but at least we're looking at as creating opportunities of that nature, which would further support our members.
That's so great.
It is. I think a lot of things have already started.
Great.
In response to that, and this is what is next. I think building deeper relationships with the outside world, with the environment, pushing the message across more forcefully.
Yeah.
So that is what is envisaged.
And then, I was going to say, if I wanted to join, if I'm a member, you've gone through everything, the guaranteed system, the principles, and I'm liking what I'm hearing, and I foundationally, this is how I operate. As a social enterprise, why should I join the WFTO, and how could it kind of impact my business kind of going forward, just in a elevator pitch?
Okay. I think it's to gain legitimacy in the marketplace that the guaranteed fair trade label carries, and be recognized as a sustainable business, and to know that and I think, as we mentioned earlier, that consumers are getting more and more conscious, and business for only profit is losing legitimacies, because more consumers are making informed purchasing choices. I think that's good enough reason for people to join WFTO.
Yeah, and I think in kind of taking that and all that we've talked about today, of kind of taking the members and then buyers and designers and then the consumer. And it's all about creating this community and transparency and overarching. It's shared value for everyone is how I kind of think about,
Exactly, Joy.
Yeah. And so then what is your and then just for anyone, whether it be anyone who wants to learn more, it can be anyone, where should they go and to learn more? What is the WFTO website? Or
it's just WFTO.com, www.wfto.com.
Perfect.
Very simple.
That is easy. That makes it very easy. Well, Roopa, I wish we had more time. As always, it's an honor to kind of speak, it was an honor to speak with you today. And I'm always so energized and inspired by your work and your work with WFTO. And I want to thank New York Now for hosting this important discussion on fair trade and creating an inclusive economy today.
Thank you, Joellen. It was such a pleasure speaking to you because we speak the same language in different parts of the world and share many experiences. And yes, I think this was a delightful 1 hour.
Yeah.
So finally, I'd say thank you, New York Now, for giving me this opportunity to have this conversation with one of my favorite people.
To learn more about the World Fair Trade Organization, please visit WFTO.com. To connect with Joellen at Nicholson Consulting, please visit JoellenNicholson.com. Thank you for listening to the New York Now podcast. Make sure to tune in weekly for engaging and insightful conversations touching on the most relevant topics facing our community today. Visit NewYorkNow.com to learn more about our market and how you can join in on the conversation.